They called him a criminal. They called him a killer. But before history judged him, Billy the Kid was something far more dangerous to the Old West. He was young, he was fast, and he refused to bow. In a land where power belonged to ranchers, politicians, and men who believed the law existed only to protect the rich, Billy the Kid became a living threat to the system itself. Not because he wanted fame, not because he sought chaos, but because he would not accept injustice, even when it wore a badge. This is not a legend built on fantasy. This is the true story of how one boy became the most hunted man in America, and why the West never truly recovered from it. William Henry McCarty was not born an outlaw. He was born into poverty. In 1859 in New York City, far from deserts and revolvers, Billy entered a world that had already decided his fate. His father was gone early. His mother struggled constantly. By the time Billy was a child, survival had already taught him lessons no school ever could. He learned to adapt. He learned to observe. And most importantly, he learned that the world did not reward innocence. When his mother died of tuberculosis in New Mexico, Billy was still a teenager. That moment broke the last fragile barrier between him and the harsh realities of the frontier. Orphaned, alone, unprotected, in the American West, that combination was deadly. The West did not offer mercy, it offered choices. Billy chose to survive. He drifted from town to town, working odd jobs, cleaning saloons, delivering messages, sleeping wherever he could. People liked him. He was polite, soft-spoken, intelligent. He could read and write, a rare skill on the frontier. But beneath that calm exterior lived a young man learning quickly that power did not come from honesty. It came from force. Billy's first arrest was for something small, stealing food. Not out of greed, but hunger. And yet, even then, the system showed him its true face. He was treated not as a desperate boy, but as a criminal. When he escaped jail by climbing a chimney, something shifted permanently. He had crossed an invisible line, and the West would never stop chasing him for it. By his late teens, Billy found himself drawn into one of the most corrupt conflicts in American frontier history, the Lincoln County War. On the surface, it was a business dispute between rival merchants and ranchers. In reality, it was a violent power struggle backed by politicians, lawmen, and hired guns. There were no good sides, only interests. Billy aligned himself with the group that treated him like a human being. Men who paid him fairly. Men who respected his loyalty. Among them was John Tunstall, an English rancher who believed in fairness, contracts, and law. Tunstall became a mentor to Billy, perhaps the closest thing to a father figure he had ever known. Then Tunstall was murdered, shot down by deputies who were supposed to uphold the law. That moment changed Billy forever. He did not see a murder. He saw the truth. The law was not neutral. It was a weapon. From that day forward, Billy the Kid was no longer just surviving. He was fighting back. He joined a group known as the Regulators, men sworn to bring Tunstall's killers to justice. But justice in Lincoln County did not come from courts. It came from gunfire. One by one, the men responsible were hunted down. Some were killed in ambushes. Others died face to face. Each death pushed Billy deeper into a role he never asked for. Outlaw, gunman, enemy of the state. And yet something about him terrified those in power. Billy was young, but he was fearless. Small, but lightning fast. Outnumbered, but relentless. He knew the land, he knew the people, and he knew how to disappear. Stories spread quickly, some exaggerated, others accurate enough to make grown men nervous. Billy the Kid became a name spoken quietly in saloons. A warning. A symbol of resistance against a system that protected itself at all costs. But America does not tolerate symbols it cannot control. As the Lincoln County War burned itself out, the winners rewrote the story. Billy and the Regulators were painted as criminals. Warrants were issued, bounties posted. The same men who ordered murders now called themselves guardians of order. Billy became the scapegoat. Hunted relentlessly, he moved constantly, relying on speed, instinct, and the loyalty of a few trusted allies. Every town carried risk. Every stranger could be a threat. Yet despite the danger, Billy never became the monster the newspapers described. Witnesses later said he avoided unnecessary killing, that he laughed easily, that he showed mercy when others wouldn't. That contradiction made him even more dangerous, because America has always struggled with men who expose its hypocrisy. By 1880, Billy the Kid was officially one of the most wanted men in the West. His face appeared on wanted posters. His name was tied to stories of violence, rebellion, and defiance. Lawmen dreamed of capturing him. Politicians wanted him silenced, and one man in particular was determined to end him. Pat Garrett, former friend, former ally. Now, the law. Their collision was inevitable, and when it came, it would decide not just Billy's fate, but how history would remember him. By the time Billy the Kid became a wanted man, the decision had already been made by those in power. He would not be captured to be understood. He would be captured to be erased. The Lincoln County War had officially ended, but its corruption had only changed form. The men who controlled the courts, the sheriffs, and the newspapers needed a villain to close the chapter cleanly, and Billy was perfect for the role. Young, armed, defiant, and without political protection, he became the face of everything they wanted the public to fear. Every crime in the region was quietly placed at his feet. Every violent act became another deed of Billy the Kid, whether he was there or not. The myth began to grow faster than the man himself, and myths are easier to hunt than the truth. Billy adapted the only way he knew how, by staying ahead. He moved constantly through New Mexico territory, riding at night, resting during the day, using the landscape like a shield. Mesas, canyons, deserts, and rivers became allies. He relied on ranchers who respected him, families who remembered his kindness, and communities that understood the injustice he was facing. Despite the bounty on his head, many people refused to turn him in. He wasn't a criminal. He was proof that the powerful were not untouchable. That quiet support terrified officials far more than his revolver ever could, because it revealed how fragile their authority truly was. It was during this period that Billy's reputation reached its peak. Stories described him as impossibly fast, smiling calmly as bullets flew, escaping ambushes that should have killed him. Some tales were exaggerated, but enough were true to build a dangerous reality. Billy the Kid was becoming untouchable. He survived gunfights that left others dead. He slipped out of towns surrounded by deputies. He vanished from jails that were supposed to hold him securely. Each escape embarrassed the law and strengthened the legend. The more they failed to catch him, the more desperate they became to end him permanently. That desperation led directly to Pat Garrett. Garrett knew Billy personally. They had ridden together, drunk together, laughed together. And now, Garrett wore a badge and carried a mission that came with political pressure and public expectation. He was appointed sheriff with one clear objective: capture or kill Billy the Kid. The irony was brutal. Two men shaped by the same violent frontier now stood on opposite sides of history, each convinced he was doing what had to be done. Enforcing the law was a chance at legitimacy. For Billy, surviving the law was a matter of principle. Their pursuit of each other became a slow-burning duel stretched across months. Garrett studied Billy's habits, his friends, his hiding places. Billy, in turn, learned Garrett's movements, his deputies, his weaknesses. It was no longer just a manhunt. It was psychological warfare. Each knew the other was capable, patient, and dangerous. Every encounter carried the weight of inevitability. They were not running toward each other. They were circling. Eventually, the law caught up. Not through fairness, but through numbers. Billy was captured in December 1880 and charged with the murder of Sheriff William Brady during the Lincoln County War. The trial was swift. The outcome predetermined. Billy was sentenced to hang. The message was clear. The system had finally closed its fist. He was placed under heavy guard in Lincoln, locked in a second-story room, watched day and night by deputies who believed the story was over, underestimated him. Billy the Kid had escaped before, but this time was different. This time there would be no second chance. If he failed, he would die on the gallows. And yet, even in chains, even under sentence of death, he remained calm, observant, waiting. On April 28, 1881, Billy made his move. Using patience and timing rather than brute force, he overpowered his guards one by one. 2 deputies were killed in the process, a moment that would forever complicate his legacy. Then, barefoot and free, Billy walked out of the jail, retrieved a horse, and rode calmly out of town, leaving the law humiliated once again. That escape shocked the nation. Newspapers exploded with outrage and fascination. How could one man defy the system so completely? For supporters, it was proof that Billy was smarter and braver than those hunting him. For critics, it was confirmation that he was too dangerous to be allowed to live. Either way, the line had been crossed. From that moment on, there would be no arrest attempt, no trial, no mercy. Billy the Kid was now officially marked for death. If you're finding this story gripping so far, if you're starting to see Billy the Kid not just as an outlaw, but as a product of corruption, power, and survival, take a second to support this channel. Leave a like so these real American stories continue to be told. And subscribe if you want more true history that doesn't hide behind myths or simple labels. Because stories like this shaped the nation, whether history is comfortable admitting it or not. Billy knew the end was coming. He felt it in the tightening circle around him, in the shrinking number of places he could hide. Friends grew fearful. Safe houses disappeared. The frontier that once protected him was closing. And Pat Garrett was getting closer with every step. What remained was not a question of if, but when, and how history would record the final moments of a boy who refused to kneel. After the escape from the Lincoln jail, Billy the Kid was no longer running from the law. He was running from time itself. The territory closed in on him like a tightening noose. Every town carried rumors. Every campfire carried whispers. Every unfamiliar rider on the horizon could mean death. The bounty on his head grew, not just in dollars, but in desperation. Politicians wanted closure. Lawmen wanted redemption. Newspapers wanted an ending they could sell. And Pat Garrett wanted the one thing the West rarely offered: finality. Billy moved like a ghost through New Mexico. He traveled light, rarely stayed in one place, and trusted fewer people with each passing week. The easy laughter that once defined him became rarer. Not gone, but guarded. He was still young, barely into his 20s, yet carried the weight of a lifetime spent under pursuit. Sleep came in fragments. Every sound mattered. Every shadow demanded attention. This was not the romantic freedom of the outlaw myth. This was endurance, survival stripped to its core. Despite the danger, Billy did not disappear completely. He still visited friends, still sought familiar faces, still believed, perhaps stubbornly, that there was room in the West for loyalty. That belief was both his strength and his weakness, because the world around him had changed. Fear had begun to outweigh friendship, and the law had learned to wait. Pat Garrett understood something others did not. Billy would not be caught through brute force alone. He was too fast, too clever, too familiar with the land. Garrett needed patience. He needed information. And most of all, he needed Billy to make a mistake born not of carelessness but of trust. So Garrett slowed the hunt. He gathered quiet intelligence. He spoke to ranchers. He listened more than he threatened. And slowly, the circle began to close. By the summer of 1881, Billy's options had narrowed dangerously. The once vast frontier now felt small. His movements were predicted, his routes anticipated. Even those who still cared for him began urging him to flee the territory entirely, to Mexico, where American law held no power. Billy considered it. Many believed he should have taken that path, but leaving New Mexico meant abandoning the last pieces of the life he knew. The people, the memories, belief that maybe somehow things could still resolve without one more death. That hesitation would prove fatal. In July, Billy returned to Fort Sumner, a place that had once offered him safety. He knew the area. He knew the people. He believed, wrongly, that familiarity could still protect him. What he did not know was that Pat Garrett was already there, waiting quietly, moving carefully, allowing Billy to walk into his own ending. The night of July 14, 1881 was heavy and still. No dramatic buildup, no thunder, no warning music, just darkness and heat. Billy entered the home of Pete Maxwell, a man he trusted. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. In the darkened room, Pat Garrett stood silently, revolver ready, senses sharpened by weeks of anticipation. Billy stepped forward unaware. Counts differ on the exact words spoken. Some say Billy recognized Garrett's silhouette too late. Others say he sensed danger but could not place it. What is agreed upon is this: the moment was brief. A question spoken in Spanish, a flash of movement, 2 gunshots tearing through the night. Billy the Kid fell to the floor, struck in the chest. He died quickly, 21 years old, alone, unarmed. There was no duel, no final speech, no chance for escape. Just a quiet end to one of the most relentless lives the frontier had ever produced. When the news broke, the reaction was immediate and divided. Some celebrated. They claimed justice had finally been served. Others mourned. They saw not a criminal defeated, but a young man crushed by forces far larger than himself. Pat Garrett became famous overnight, and haunted just as quickly. Though praised publicly, he spent the rest of his life shadowed by doubt and regret. He had ended a legend, but legends have a way of outliving the men who kill them. Billy the Kid's death did not bring peace to the territory. It brought debate, questions, discomfort, the kind that lingers. Was he a murderer? Yes. Was he a victim of corruption? Also yes. Could both be true at the same time? America was not ready to answer that question, and perhaps still isn't. What remained undeniable was this. Billy the Kid had exposed something raw at the heart of the Old West, the thin line between law and power, the ease with which justice could be bent, the cost paid by those born without protection. He was not a hero in the traditional sense, but he was honest in his defiance. And in a world built on force, that honesty made him dangerous. As stories spread, the facts blurred. The boy became a symbol. The symbol became a legend. Songs were written, stories retold. Hollywood would later reshape him into something cleaner, simpler, easier to digest. But beneath every version, the truth remained uncomfortable. Billy the Kid was not created by chaos alone. He was created by a system that failed to protect the weak and punished those who refused to accept it quietly. His life burned fast, his impact lasted far longer, and in the silence that followed his death, the Old West revealed one of its darkest truths. Sometimes the line between outlaw and icon is drawn not by actions alone, but by who gets to write the ending. Billy the Kid died on the floor of a dark room in Fort Sumner, but his story refused to stay there. In the days that followed his death, something strange happened across the American West. Instead of relief, there was unease. Instead of closure, there was argument. Newspapers rushed to print his name, each headline framing him differently. Cold-blooded killer, ruthless outlaw, tragic youth, folk hero. America could not agree on what it had just witnessed, and that disagreement became the seed of Billy the Kid's immortality. Because men who are truly insignificant are forgotten quickly. Billy was not. The truth is uncomfortable. Billy the Kid did not fit neatly into the moral boxes people wanted to place him in. He had killed men, that much is undeniable, but he had also been hunted relentlessly by a system that was deeply compromised. In the Old West, law and power were often the same thing, and both favored those who already had wealth, land, and influence. Billy had none of that. He had been poor, orphaned, and alone in a territory where those qualities were not weaknesses, they were death sentences. His defiance was not born from ideology, but from experience. He learned early that obedience did not guarantee safety, and that the law was not always a shield. Sometimes it was the blade. That is why his story resonated so deeply with ordinary Americans, especially those who lived far from power and privilege. To them, Billy the Kid was not just an outlaw. He was a mirror, a reflection of what happened when institutions failed and survival became personal. He represented a raw truth the nation struggled to admit, that the frontier was not won by justice alone, but by force, compromise, and men willing to live outside the lines drawn by others. As the years passed, the legend grew larger than the man ever was. Songs romanticized him, books reshaped him, Hollywood transformed him into an icon, handsome, fearless, rebellious, frozen forever at 21. Each retelling stripped away some complexity and added spectacle, but none could erase the core contradiction at the heart of his life. Billy the Kid was neither pure villain nor misunderstood saint. He was the product of a violent era that demanded violence in return. America, as a nation, has always had a complicated relationship with figures like him. On one hand, the country celebrates law, order, and stability. On the other, it is deeply drawn to rebels who expose corruption and refuse to submit quietly. Billy the Kid sits squarely at that crossroads. He forces Americans to confront a question that has echoed since the frontier days. When the system is broken, Who gets to decide what justice looks like? Even Pat Garrett, the man who killed him, could never escape that question. Though Garrett was praised publicly and credited with restoring order, his life afterward was marked by bitterness, financial struggle, and regret. He had ended a legend, but it did not bring him peace. History did not grant him the clarity it denied Billy. Instead, both men became bound together forever, symbols of opposite sides of the same brutal reality. Over time, Billy the Kid became something more enduring than a criminal record. He became a symbol of youthful defiance, of speed and intelligence used against overwhelming odds. His face, captured in one of the only known photographs of him, stared back at generations who saw in his eyes not madness but awareness of a world that would never forgive him for surviving on his own terms. And perhaps that is the reason his story still matters today. Billy the Kid reminds America that its past was not clean, that its heroes were not flawless, that its laws were not always just. The Old West was a crucible where the nation tested its values in blood and dust, and figures like Billy emerged from that fire, carrying scars the country still examines. He did not live long enough to see how history would debate him. He did not control the narrative that followed his death, but in a strange way, that only strengthened his legacy, because Billy the Kid became whatever America needed him to be at different moments in time. A warning, a rebel, a tragedy, a challenge, and beneath every version lies the same truth. He was young, he was hunted, and he refused to surrender quietly. That defiance, more than any gunfight or escape, is what cemented his place in American history. Not because it was right, not because it was wrong, but because it was human. If this story made you think, if it challenged the simple labels history often uses, take a moment to engage. Leave a like to support real American stories told with honesty. Subscribe to this channel if you believe the past deserves to be understood, not sanitized. And comment below. Was Billy the Kid a criminal shaped by his choices, or a symbol shaped by a broken system? Because how we answer that question says as much about us as it does about him.